it was a political assassination, because when you think of people under the age of 35 on the conservative side who combined photogenic ability to speak to people without notes, to do a podcast, to have the administrative skill to create from scratch a huge organization, to be political savvy and to know which states to go in and how to approach the electorate to help the conservatives. And you put all that together, he is irreplaceable. He really is. I can't think of anybody who could do that. And that's what's really stunning. And the other thing very quickly is, there's two or three things. This was a political assassination, but it was also a journalistic. We don't really in this country do what they do in Europe, or maybe we've had Solomon Rushdie, a public intellectual. We had some, I think in 2019 there was a news organization where a guy went after them. But usually we don't see attacks on reporters or journalists or podcasters. And this is new. And this is, if this person turns out to be on the left, I have no idea, then it's not just a political act, but it's also trying to thwart the dissemination of knowledge. The other thing, very quickly, we saw that with the two Trump would-be assassins, that they were mentally ill and disturbed, yes. And we've seen that now with the creepy predator murder executioner of that beautiful girl we talked about from the Ukraine. And he was mentally ill. But the reaction to it is always, the reaction is like we saw from the mayor of Charlotte. Let's not demonize the homeless. Let's not blame anybody. Let's not do this. This guy was crazy. That I don't really care anymore. You know that? I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to Charlie's family, his daughters, to grow up without a father. It doesn't matter whether he was killed by somebody who was a hired political assassin or whether the person had mental problem. It doesn't really matter. When I walk on the street in San Francisco and somebody is defecating and comes up and tries to push me, I don't really care whether he's crazy or he's sane. It just is a fact that happens. And to the Irania, the Ukrainian girl who was murdered, it doesn't really matter whether the guy thought he was talking in his head. The way he did that, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so I think everybody's tired of that. The third thing is there's violence on both sides, and I understand that the Minnesota judge who was a person who went after the activist in Minnesota was probably, I don't know what he was, center-right or something. But when you look at the Scalise assassinations and you look at I think his name was Brian Thompson, the United Health executive, you look at the two attempts on Trump's life, you get and then you collate that in a wider atmosphere of just things like the New Republic putting Trump with the mustache, or a poll taken after the second assassination attempt that says 30% of the Democratic Party thought they would have liked Trump to be killed.
Here's a Charlie Kirk ex-post recent picture that he wrote that says assassination culture is spreading across the left. Nearly half of liberals say they'd consider taking down Elon Musk justified, and more than half say the same about Donald Trump. Activists in California are even naming ballot measures after Luigi Mannion, signals of a violent frenzy overtaking segments of the left. Setbacks, be it election losses or court defeats, don't just lead to protests anymore. They trigger calls for maximal violence. This is the logical consequence of years of left-wing protest culture tolerating riots and mayhem. Add local prosecutors and school officials' refusal to enforce laws decisively, and you have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. Political violence is no longer fringe. It's growing mainstream on the left, and the consequences are deadly.
So the left always says that we're more sophisticated, we're more moral than you, so we're going to use tough language. Get Jasmine Crockett and this utter vile racism about white people, and then you see Joy Reid basically just horrific things she said on MSNBC. You see Sonny Huston on The View saying, well, it's uneducated white women that white. And you get all of this, and you get the impression that they are lowering the bar of what's acceptable. It's acceptable because if you really believe that Charlie Kirk is part of a Nazi movement, or he's a white privilege, white rage, or Donald Trump is, and you need to have videos about kickboxing him and punching him and hitting him with a bat. It all filters down, and there's people out there that interpret that as, well, we have a Hitler, we have a fascist. If I do something to him, what will be the reaction? I bet people will consider me a Luigi Mangione and have an opera about me? And Taylor Lorenz is going to give a puff piece interview about how charismatic, and Rolling Stone is going to put my picture and maybe, I don't know, Photoshop it to make me look handsome like the Sarnoff mass killer. That's where we are. If you go on social media or Blue Sky or whatever that thing, there are people just celebrating right now.
They are. Yeah,
they are. I can imagine they are. And when I saw Matthew Dowd said, well, Charlie Kirk was very polarized. As soon as you go down that route, and then he tried to say that it was one of his own supporters.
Yeah, maybe it was one of his supporters. Yeah,
he should be socially ostracized. I mean, really, that's a horrific thing to say. But it's if I was Donald Trump, and I pray for his safety, I think they should triple down on his Secret Service, because most people would think, well, this is so horrific, we don't want to ever see this again. But the left-wing mind of certain people on the left is, well, if this guy did it, then I can do better than that. That's how it works. We saw that with the second assassin. He was encouraged by the near miss of the first assassin.
The left often claims moral superiority, yet key voices like Jasmine Crockett, Joy Reid, and Sunny Hostin frequently employ divisive rhetoric targeting white Americans. This inflammatory language lowers the bar for acceptable discourse and criminalizes ideological opponents by branding them Nazis or fascists. Such dehumanizing speech doesn't stay confined to media. It seeps into real life, persuading some to view violence as justified. When political leaders and media personalities tacitly condone aggression or suggest violent responses, it creates a dangerous feedback loop, fueling extremism and polarized violence. This cycle threatens democratic dialogue. Unless all sides reject hate-fueled rhetoric and unequivocally condemn violence, the public square risks collapsing into chaos and fear. If you value honest analysis and real conversations, make sure to subscribe. Hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What did we miss, and what should we tackle next? Your voice makes this community stronger. Let's keep pushing for the truth together.